Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing all well. Let me know if you're able to hear me and see me. I'm just doing a little bit of a technical test just to make sure that all is good. So let me know if you can hear me and see me. Let's see. There we go. Awesome. Okay. We're right on time. That is awesome. And I wanted to say hello to everyone. If you are tuning in, please let me know in the chat where you are tuning in from before we start. I am so excited. We are going to talk about story selling your experience, and I have a lot of good stuff today for you. And if you've already watched my previous live, there's new stuff that I'm going to be sharing. So definitely stay till the end. Hey, Cheryl, hope you're doing well. Thank you so much. You are awesome. I appreciate you. All right. Today, I'm going to be talking about story selling your experience on your resume and interview. Hey, Priyanka from Los Angeles. And we've got Freddie, also from Los Angeles, of course. Robert, always in my lives. Rochelle, oh my goodness, nice to see you. Okay, welcome, everyone. I am extremely excited. Okay, so I want to ask you a question before we get started. And my question to you is, what is the worst thing that ever happened to you in your career? Share with me in the chat. What is the worst thing that has ever happened to you in your career? I'm curious because I'm going to tell you a little story about what happened to me in my career, but I'd love it if you share. Safe space here. Hey, Victoria, nice to see you. Laid off. I am so sorry to hear that you've been laid off. Been there, and I am happy that you're bringing in all this positive energy and you're making time for yourself to learn. Lots of people who are getting laid off, and I'm very, very sorry to hear that. But hopefully, you're going to come out of this stronger, even, with some friendships and learning something. Okay, so I'm going to share with you the worst thing that ever happened to me in my career. And the worst thing truly that ever happened to me in my career was when I was working for one of the big 5 consulting companies. And I found out that my mom got diagnosed with cancer. So that honestly was the worst thing that ever happened to me in my career. And that was 2 years into just, starting my first ever job. And I realized after slaving myself how important it is to actually put yourself first and that no job is worth it. Growing up, I saw my mom sacrificing so much of her basically health, traveling, working late. And when she got diagnosed with cancer, I got a wake up call. And I realized that it's not worth wasting your life for a job. So that was my first wake up call. Okay, so here's the thing, I was brought up as, in a Middle Eastern family. And in the Eastern culture, some of you may be familiar with this, is you're groomed to be the obedient child, to be the hard worker, to do everything right. And so when I saw my role model paying for all of the hard work that she put in and getting diagnosed with cancer, it was a very tough lesson for me. So I went, when that happened, from working 70 hours a week as a consultant to pretty much giving up and just showing up to collect a paycheck. I stopped caring. That's what happened to me. So this is where I went from the shy introverted person to this wild person because of everything that I went through with my mom's cancer. I ended up not giving a crap about my career and filling the void with a lot of dancing to distract myself. And here, if you can see, That is a real photo of me. I'm in the middle on a stage. Um, I replaced my job with dancing because I gave up on the idea of actually doing what I love. And I had two personalities. There was the one in the office at the right. You can see that I'm fake smiling for the camera because of how miserable I was. And then on the left side, that was the real me outside of work, having fun. So the thing is, I was running away and I didn't want to face the pain of being alone. The thing about loneliness is you can be surrounded by all the people in the world. But when you're not yourself, when you're pretending to be someone else, it's lonely. And I felt very lonely in my career. So, whenever someone asked me how I was doing, I would drop the F bomb. Do you know what the F bomb is? Who can take a guess? It's not what you think. All of you say the F bomb. Do you know what the F bomb is? Anyone? Come on, take a guess. What does F start for? Who's going to be brave and take a stab? Yes! You got it right. You're right. We all do this all the time. We pretend that we're fine. I was not fine. I was in denial. That's why I call it the F bomb. In fact, I was so miserable and I was experiencing this mysterious pain that in order to cope, I was taking these codeine pills. Until one day, guess what happened to me? I ended up in the hospital and I lost half of my pancreas. That is an actual photo of me in the hospital. This is when I truly realized how alone I felt because I was dancing, I was distracting myself, I was in denial, I was running away. So it didn't hit me until I lost half of my pancreas, how alone I was. And when I put in all of this hard work, I remember obviously I would fluctuate between like not giving a crap and showing up to work, but I was still the hard worker inside me. The obedient person was still putting my 100%. And I remember what happened was um, one of my coworkers who was socializing with the boss and drinking, they got promoted and I didn't. And at the time, I was working on all of these projects where I had to wake up, 4 a.m, catch a flight every Monday at 6 o'clock. And I didn't get promoted. And that is when I decided to quit over text, especially after I learned from what my mom went through. And after I lost half of my pancreas, I decided that enough was enough. And that's when I quit over text. So, there's a little lesson that one of my clients shares that really hit me hard a couple of weeks ago. I got him to do an exercise, and he said something. He said that this exercise helped refresh who I was and what he loves doing, and that there was so much hidden in his head. And that is the best analogy I can give you all, is that I felt so lost and confused throughout all my career, feeling like a corporate robot, showing up to work, pretending to be someone else, trying to fit in all of the politics and paying a heavy price. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea what I enjoyed. And I just felt that there was so much hidden in my head. And I just didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what it would translate to. I didn't know what I enjoyed doing. So, of course, I decided to work with a career coach who helped me get out of my own head. I'd sometimes daydream about opening a doggy daycare because I was so burnt out. I would daydream about maybe starting a kids' daycare because that's what I helped my mom with growing up. And I had all these ideas that were just, a tornado in my head. And I didn't know what to make out of it. I just knew that I hated my job and I didn't want to do any of it again. So after I hired a career coach, after basically more than, I would say, 14 years in the corporate world, having been a product manager, an agile coach, going through so many pivots, probably 5 career transitions, and feeling like I was parachuting from one job to another and just crashing, I hired a career coach. And she made me do this exercise after I quit over text. She asked me to close my eyes, meditate, visualize where I was. It was literally after I had this fever in the beginning of January 2020, and my boyfriend had left me, and I was unemployed and literally transferring money from one credit card to another to pay my bills. Um, my career coach got me to do this meditation exercise, and all I can think of is that I wanted to be on the beach. That's how burnt out I was. But what happened was I did this other exercise where I looked at my entire career from birth all the way to present. And after doing that entire brain dump of experience in my head, I started seeing patterns in it. And I was able to turn it into a career story. And I was able to put all of the pieces of the puzzles together to pull my story. I was able to see why I was a consultant and why I love teaching kids in my mom's daycare, why I was so drawn to being in dance because I love performing and I love being in front of an audience. And all of a sudden, when I started putting all of these pieces of the puzzle together and being able to tell my story and see my story come together, that's when I decided that career coaching was for me. So when that happened, you can see on the left side, that was me right after my pancreatic surgery. You can see the dark circles. I'm like so skinny. And you can see that this is me, in the beginning of 2023, this year. You can see a huge difference. You can see how happier I am. And this is why today I want to arm you with a weapon that has practically transformed my life, that had made me happier, more fulfilled, and gave me a lot of freedom. It even boosted my confidence to the level that after quitting over text, I ended up building my business from 0 to 1, having served more than 100 people. Going from this shy, introverted person to someone with more than 20,000 following on LinkedIn, and speaking at different podcasts, events, whether it was a Scrum Alliance, whether it is being published in one of the big, newspapers at the Globe and Mail, speaking on stages, all of that. And as well as helping professionals in more than 7 countries land jobs at, all of these blue chip companies that you're all familiar with. So what is the secret? Who can tell me what is the secret that I'm going to reveal today? That's going to help you all feel more fulfilled and find your purpose, as well as persuade employers, because I know that a lot of you are here because that's what you want. So who can tell me what is the secret? Come on. Someone. You get bonus points and there's a free prize. Oh, yes. I mean, you were in my previous live, so but I'm still going to give you bonus points for sharing first, how to tell your story. Rory, yes, 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 yes. Story selling is the secret weapon. It's definitely not starting over or taking on a more junior role, because here is the myth busted. One of my clients who actually landed a job at Amazon while he was still in Mexico It's definitely not having the previous title or direct experience, because you can see here that one of my clients went from being a doctor with no tech experience to becoming a product professional. It's not having fancy degrees or certifications. My client did not even have a degree, and he landed at one of the top gaming companies in Europe. And it's not knowing the right people. Guess what? I don't know the right people. I'm an immigrant too. And this is an example of a client who was at the same company for 3 years, wasn't getting promoted, and after working with me, got promoted. Why? Because he was able to story sell his experience. So the thing is, you can have all the experience in the world, but I'm not saying if you basically don't articulate yourself the best way, it doesn't matter. I'm actually saying it differently today. What I'm saying to you all, that you can have all the experience in the world, but if you don't know your value, how will you be able to articulate it to hiring managers? And in fact, I'm saying this after working with more than 100 people, all the way up to the VP level. And do you know what I see as the common denominator? It's not that you are all not writing the right resumes, or you're not able to convince hiring managers and recruiters. I actually think it's that you are not convinced that you are capable. And that is what I call imposter syndrome. In fact, I just had a conversation with a client today who's actually at a large organization that I'm not able to disclose. And he is basically equivalent to a VP. And I was surprised when we were looking at similar roles, and he was basically not sure if he's ready, etc. And I realized that this is a problem that people have at any level. I see it all the time. It all starts with you. It's because you're not seeing the connection in your story. And that's exactly what I dealt with when I was telling you my story. Okay, so who resonates with that? Who resonates with this whole thing of, I'm not sure if I'm ready. I kind of am tired of what I'm doing, but I have no idea what to do next. I'm scared of making a change. Who resonates with that? Who resonates with having a hard time not being able to see their career as a story and connecting the dots and knowing what's next for them? Yes, +1, resonate. Wonderful. Thank you for your honesty. Okay, so when it comes to articulating your experience, here are some challenges and patterns that I've seen across the board, having worked with a diverse, clientele. Like I shared with you, clients in Mexico, in US, in UK, in Australia, in Singapore. Don't tell me how I'm able to manage all these time zones, but somehow I do. I work with such a diverse group of people that sometimes in normal conversation with my friends or with my partner, I'll say like things like, "Yeah, I'll talk to you at 7 p.m. EST." Anyway, I digress, but these are some of the challenges that I've seen. So one of them being imposter syndrome. So maybe you'll fit in that bucket. You tend to sell yourself short and you have no idea how to show you are capable. Raise your hand, or rather, +1 if you fit in that bucket. I know I still do sometimes. And believe me when I tell you that it took me 8 months to actually advertise that I was a career coach after I started my business. The second one is you don't have Canadian or US experience, but you're an experienced professional and you don't want to start over or take a more junior role. I see that a lot. And you know what? It's such an immigrant thing. I've experienced that too. I don't know what it is that we feel like we have to pay our dues when we come to a new country when we've done so much. Um, plus one if you don't have direct experience, you've never held the exact title and have no idea how to map your transferable skills to the role you want to land. That literally is something that I had to deal with more than 5 times in my career. Maybe you are a leader and you struggle with articulating more than a decade of experience in a concise way, especially when you've been at the same company forever. Many of you feel that way. The last one, I definitely fit in that bucket. You're burnt out and unfulfilled, no longer fit in that bucket, but I did. Revisiting what you've done or talking about it is too painful, especially if you've been let go. So, if you fit in any of these buckets, then you are definitely in the right place. And I definitely want you to listen till the end because there's so much that I want to share with you that's going to help you. Okay, so this is an interactive session. I really want you all to participate, mainly because I know as someone who is a teacher, I see the knowledge solidified more when people actually participate. You know, do yourself a favor and honestly just I don't even have my phone around me. Like take your phone, turn it off, put it somewhere else. This is your time. Don't let this be yet another training that you attend and then you just like forget about and shelf, right? Do this for yourself. Okay, and some of you may have already gotten these flashcards. You are going to get these flashcards as well. If these are my special storytelling flashcards, and on top of that, since some of you have attended and already have gotten the flashcards, I'm all about creating value for people. I'm going to throw in my LinkedIn cheat sheet as well. So if you comment, storytelling in the end, I will know that you were there till the end, and you will get the prize. All right. There's also a surprise prize. I'm going to select 10 people. There's so many prizes today, but I will announce the surprise prize towards the end. Okay, so here's what we're going to cover. We're going to cover my story selling framework. It's the framework that I have used to help more than 100 of my clients land product jobs up to the senior director level and above. And I also have a time-sensitive opportunity that I'm going to, make available to a handful of people who may be interested in working more closely with me to put all of this in place. So this is the basically framework that I'm going to talk about today. I came up with this framework actually a few days ago just to help you understand the mistakes that you're all making. And this is what I call the miscommunication maze. This is the maze where recruiters, hiring managers, stakeholders in a meeting get lost when you're communicating with them. And it centers around these 4 things: relevance, focus, connection, and perception. Okay? So I'm going to talk to you about all of these different mistakes that you're making so that at least when you come out of this session, you're going to come out with something tangible and you're going to remind yourself to not do these things. All right. So mistake number 1, relevance. To help you understand this mistake, I am going to talk about a common myth that I see people believe in that holds them back from communicating. And I see this often on people's resumes. People have this belief that they're trying to fight a bunch of resume bots that don't exist because they don't have a clear understanding of how the application tracking system works. They talk to people who have never seen the back end, and this big myth gets propagated about how the application tracking system actually works. So today, I'm all about giving people the right knowledge to help you. So here's how the application tracking system actually works. It's not a bunch of bots or gremlins that are out there to get you. It's actually a software. And the way it works, note the words tracking, not screening. Okay. The way it works is that the recruiter posts the job through the application tracking system. It's like a CRM tool. You can see there is one of the application tracking systems is called Recruity, and I've used several, so I know how they work in the back end. There's a dashboard, there's an ability to post a job, there's an ability to manage candidates, to schedule interviews, and all that this application tracking system allows recruiters to do is to organize where each candidate, aka you, job seekers, where they are in the job process. And it also allows them to basically either move someone to the "we're now going to call you" pile, to the phone screen and interview pile, or to the offer pile. That's all it is. Okay. Recruiters actually do read basically however many resumes they're able to read, and at some point decide, you know what, I'm going to choose 20 or 30 of these applications and I'm going to schedule them for an interview. And maybe if you apply after they make the decision that they've selected these 20, it might be too late because they have enough people to interview. Now, some of you wonder why you get these rejections at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning, and that's when you say, there must be a bot, because how is it possible that I got rejected so late? Well, the automation is actually not based on your resume. The automation is based on fields that you fill out when you are applying for a job online. Questions like, are you eligible to work for an employer in Canada or in the US? Do you have a work permit? What is your salary expectation? And depending on the number you put in, there is logic tied to that field that can disqualify you. And that is the only automated part of the screening process. In fact, here's an example of a recruiter. I purposely decided to message her just to prove to you all that no, we don't use AI bots to screen out resumes. Some applications have pre-screened questions candidates need to fill out. So there you go. That's your proof. Now, why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because a lot of you have this fear that I have to have all of these right keywords. And do you know what happens? Because you have this fear that you want to fulfill every single thing that they're looking for, this is what you do. You end up doing this insane brain dump of every little thing that you did. You start putting keywords blindly without telling a story when recruiters don't care about half the stuff that you put in. When really what recruiters care about is the part in the middle, the orange part, the intersection between your experience and what the job posting is asking for. That's all they care about. Yet most of you give your entire life story. Question, what about the EOE questions? Is there logic tied to those that disqualify if we choose not to answer or select that we don't want it to disclose? Yeah, there's some logic tied to some of these fields, including the salary, right? So I don't know what you mean by EOE, but there are some questions like the ones I mentioned that have logic tied to them, but the experience stuff, there isn't really logic based on that. Okay, so that's the problem. Mistake number one is you give recruiters a brain dump. And here's the thing. When you're not providing relevant information, what you're doing is you're making recruiters burn calories, paying attention to you. Every extra word that you put in and you share in your communication ends up costing you? You are burning the attention budget of a recruiter. All right. Mistake number 2. Who knows what mistake number 2 is? Without me going further, who here feels like they are a jack of all trades and they want to maximize their chances, so they apply to all kinds of jobs? You brand yourself as a product manager, as a business analyst, as a project manager, as a product manager. I made that mistake when I was a job seeker. I wanted to increase my chances. And guess what? I had this brilliant idea of branding myself as an agile coach and a product manager. When those are very they're different types of roles, and that confused the heck out of recruiters. They would even ask me, "Which one are you?" We don't know what you want. A lot of you don't have a North Star. And when you don't have a North Star, what happens? Your branding is not focused. So, for those of you who are product people, what happens when you don't have a North Star and you build a product that tries to please everyone? Who ends up buying that product? Who ends up using that product? If you're trying to please everyone, if you don't have a clear market segment or customer segment, what happens to your product? Anyone here? We got some product folks. Come on, you should know this. No one. Yes, thank you. Yet, why do you feel compelled to try to please everyone through your personal branding? Here's the thing. Just like how a product has a vision, you need to have a career vision. And when I talk about career vision, a lot of you get confused and you think that I'm talking about title. I'm not talking about title. I'm talking beyond title. Does it matter what your product is called as much as, the features and the value that your product delivers, right? Your title is just your packaging. So a lot of you talk about being laid off and toxic environments and, the job not being a fit. And hey, I don't blame you, because I was in the same basically position where I was just going there aimlessly and parachuting from one organization to another. I didn't focus on what environment would make me happy so that I'm my authentic self. What type of products do I enjoy, right? What type of problems do I enjoy solving? Most of you make the mistake of just thinking about the tasks, but it's beyond that. And this is when I work with my clients as part of my career archetype quiz, we look at 3 things. What problems do you enjoy solving? How do you enjoy collaborating with others? And what types of people do you enjoy collaborating with? And what type of social impact you enjoy making? We have to tackle those 3 things in order to create fulfillment. And so the lack of focus that a lot of you have, not knowing what to do next, translates to every aspect of your communication. And this is why when you don't know what you want, what happens is you talk about all kinds of things that is not relevant to your audience. It's like throwing an entire cake of experience at a recruiter. Your ideas become so disconnected, like you're throwing spaghetti at a wall. Yeah, I launched this payments product platform, and let me tell you about my ability to lead a team, and let me tell you about my ability to align stakeholders and run a discovery and do all these things, right? Versus feeding the recruiter one slice of your experience at a time, and a very targeted slice. Because when you care about what you do, guess what? You're going to be reading the job posting, you're going to be excited about it, and you're going to be more focused. Cheryl, I do too, but I mean, if you feed me too much cake, I can get overwhelmed and I'm not gonna savor it and enjoy it as much, right? Okay, so a lot of you overwhelm recruiters with a buffet of varied experience instead of showing them your best three dishes and describing them well. It's quality, not quantity. So the thing is, when you are focused and you have a North Star and you are super focused on the type of company you want to work for, you're excited about the product, your messaging is going to become focused. You see how it's a dominoes effect? Okay, so let's talk about the third mistake. The third mistake is perception. I call it showing up in your PJs. That's how it feels with a lot of the resumes that I see and a lot of brands on LinkedIn that I see. This is how you show up when this is how your resume looks like. If you are a leader in a leadership role, whether you're a VP, whether you're a director, whether you're a senior product manager, if this is how your resume looks like, what's the impression that you're creating? Tell me. Has any of you walked into the store where everything was disorganized and things were broken? Would you buy from that store? Or would you rather walk into a store that's organized with everything laid out very well? And so, how can you expect recruiters to think of you as an experienced leader when that's how your resume looks like? Uneven pages with a lot of white space. And believe me when I tell you, this was someone in a leadership role. Small fonts. Oh my God, my eyes are hurting. And what is with the red? Too many bullets, way too many bullets, and not enough white space. Now look at this resume. This is one of my best templates. Do you see the difference? This resume is so much easier to read. The logos pop. There's even white space. There's a nice flow to it. And there's concise information. Okay, let's talk about the fourth mistake. By the way, what mistake do you feel you've been making so far? Anyone? Are you the pajama person? Are you the North Star person? What mistake are you guilty of? So, what mistake do you feel you're guilty of? I'm curious. Jack of all trades, not being concise, too much information, wide variety, trying to put in keywords. Yes. Oh my God. The story is not cohesive. Okay. This goes into my next portion. Connection. That's another mistake that people make. Sometimes a lot of you overly focus on the how and being what I called an instructional manual. So tell me what's wrong with this is actually a snippet from an actual resume that was shared with me. I obviously, did not disclose the name of the person, etc. But what do you see wrong with this portion of the resume? Who can tell me? Yes, you could. 2 pages is definitely recommended. Who can tell me what's wrong? Who can tell me what's wrong with the way this portion of the resume looks like? So this is someone who basically provided a bunch of bullets under a position. Yes, you got that right. Focus on tasks, no impact. 100%. Person sounds like an instructional manual. We don't know what product they worked on. It feels generic. They just copied and pasted a job posting with a bunch of keywords. They're not telling a cohesive story. So, what I mean by connection is it's important that you connect the ideas in your story, whether it's on your resume or in an interview. You want to basically help people understand the why behind what you did, the so what, right? And this is the little framework that I share in my storytelling bootcamp. The inverted pyramid. Talk to me about the high level business goal that the company was going through at the time when you were working with them. At what stage was the organization in? Were they trying to scale? Were they trying to grow their revenue? Were they trying to retain customers? And then what was the product that you were responsible for or working on, regardless of what your role is, whether you're an agile coach, a product manager, designer, replace product with initiative if you're a project manager or you're not in tech, right? Help me understand, where do you fit in the big picture? And if you are a leader, you need to be able to speak this way. You can't just go in the little minutia. You need to set the stage. So for those of you who know STAR, right, we talk about the situation. If I'm watching a movie and I don't understand the context and all I see is the movie scene with no context, I'm not going to understand the big picture. There's no story. So you need to set the stage with helping the recruiter understand what the business goals were at the company you were working at in order to create that relatability. Maybe you were working at a startup and the recruiter is hiring someone at a startup. If you talk about that and you talk about the challenges that a startup was going through when you were working on this product, then boom, you created that connection. And that's what I mean by connection. So you need to connect the ideas in your resume in order to connect the dots for the recruiter and in order to connect with the organization and create that relatability. Ooh, I can't believe I just did that. Okay. So business goal, product, challenges, and you see how the action triangle is small? Most of you spend too much time on the how and the actions. You should spend more time on the business goals, product, and challenges, and very little time on the how and the actions. And then the impact, which is represented by the dollar sign. A lot of you don't talk about your wins. So what? Did you help grow the revenue of the company? Did you, and yes, you're not the only person who was involved, but you contributed to it. So why not talk about that? So here's an example of my actual resume. I have a snippet for the purposes of this, live, because I'm not allowed to share snippets from resumes I've written for clients. But notice how I tell a cohesive story. I talk about how I managed product solutions that drive user adoptions for my startup. And I worked on user-facing digital consumer products to help clients up-level their career across US, Canada, Mexico, UK, and Australia. Do you see how I set the stage? I talk about my startup goals, which at the time was to increase user adoption. I talk about the scale and the scope as a leader, as a founder of my company, the scale and the scope of clients that I managed, right? And then the other thing that I talk about is how I balance the cost with user needs while minimizing trade-offs. And in the end, what happened was I achieved 90% user adoption rate by facilitating co-creation sessions to understand user pain points, which is true. I do a lot of retrospectives and all of the career coaching programs that I have launched and products that I've launched, because I'm always about iterating and learning from every, client experience. But you see how the story is cohesive. It's not a bunch of, ooh, let me just take what the job posting asks for and just dump a whole bunch of keywords and hope that I stand out. This is why there are so many people out there in the market looking for jobs. because the things that are taught to us are the wrong things. Okay, you need to tell a story. Okay, now the bonus mistake that I want to share with you is faking it till you make it. Because guess what? When you're in that communication and you're in that miscommunication maze, making all of these mistakes, trying to overly please recruiters, you have good intentions, you want to get a job, but you're faking it till you make it. You're putting a bunch of keywords. You're not even excited about the jobs that you're applying to. You're not even taking the time to read the job posting because it's one out of the 100 jobs you're applying to. You're putting on a mask and you're not being authentic. And that is the biggest mistake that you can ever make. Okay, awesome. So if there's one takeaway that I have for you is that your story matters and you're the opposite of imposter syndrome. You just need to learn how to communicate your value and own it. If I was able to go from quitting over text to building a 6-figure company in a span of 3 years, then you can do this. You just need to learn how to communicate your value. Just like how my client Tesse went from being a doctor with no tech experience to product manager. My client Heath, who went from being a truck driver with no degree to working at a gaming company. And my client who basically got an offer while he was still in Mexico at Amazon. When I ask my clients, what are the things that make my community special? These are the things that they say. And these are lessons for you all to learn. The importance of accountability. As human beings, we have bad habits. I know I do. I'm like, drinking my can of ginger ale. If my health coach was here, she'd get mad at me. But the truth is, we all need accountability to get out of our own way. Okay? The other thing that my clients have shared that I've helped them with is imposter syndrome. It's real. And we all have moments of doubt. Okay? In fact, imposter syndrome was repeated twice. So you're not alone. A lot of people deal with this. In fact, do me a favor, drop in the chat if you have had moments of doubt or think you have imposter syndrome. Drop that in the chat and let's see if, we can all relate. Who here has imposter syndrome? Let's see how many. I'm going to count. $1,000 plus. And by the way, everyone, calls it something different. Some people believe, they call the doubts and the lack of confidence imposter syndrome. If you don't relate or believe in imposter syndrome, then I think every one of us, and it's a bit healthy actually to have a little bit of doubt, or you want to make sure that you're not taking on a job that's over your head. It is healthy to have a little bit of that, but you don't want that to rule you, okay? Because it is actually good for you to have a little bit of discomfort. Because if you don't have that, that means you're not growing. That means you're stagnating in your career. When I started my business, I was working with people who are mid-career professionals. And I was feeling anxious when I would get on calls with them because I was, oh my God, am I going to be able to help them? Then I outgrew that. And that's when I knew that when the butterflies were no longer there, I was ready to take on more challenging clients or more higher level clients up to VP level. So you need to have a little bit of that. It's actually healthy. Another thing that my clients share with me that I've helped with was the branding. Seeing value in the experience that I have and owning it. So important. And that's where the storytelling comes in. My approach is not to just fill in a bunch of surveys My approach is to help you see your story yourself and look for the patterns in order to determine what is it that you want to double down on. Let's audit and discover the things that you dislike in your past so that we know we try to avoid them in your next job. And what are the things that bring you joy so that we can focus more on them. And then the other things that a lot of my clients have shared was connecting my experience into the industry, into the product, or into the new world that I'm getting into, embracing my new avatar, getting out of my own head and seeking wisdom from a master career navigator, trying to take the next step in my career while being stuck in a loop of lateral moves for 9 years, making a decision on what career path to make and gaining confidence. So those are just things that my clients have shared that they benefited from, working with me, being part of the community, and just personal struggles that I've helped them overcome. So now that I've shared all this, all these storytelling tips, you may have questions like, okay, so Nada, you shared with me the importance of having a North Star, but how do I figure that out? You talk about this career archetype quiz. Can I have access to it? Can you share it? Can you help me structure my resume? Maybe I've had so many gaps and I just don't know how to, reduce the bias with recruiters. How do I know what stories to tell that map my experience? Because you mentioned that I shouldn't share all of my experience, only what recruiters care about. Some things that I've noticed with especially people in leadership roles is sometimes they'll still talk about the nitty gritty stuff that makes them come across as individual contributors instead of people managers. So how do I, balance that? How do I create concise messaging? How do I get personalized feedback on my stories? How do I quantify my achievements? How do I reduce the time it takes to revise my resume so that I'm not like, oh my God, spending hours on every job I'm applying to? Well, guess what? I have a storytelling boot camp coming up next week. In fact, my cohort is wrapping up. And what I wanted to say is how my storytelling boot camp works. This photo describes it all. So imagine having this brain dump of experience that a lot of you have, especially if you have 10 years of experience or more, and you don't know what to make out of it. And I help you sort it and then map it to hiring manager requirements, and then visually represent it in a concise resume, and then explain it with stories to convert your interviews into offers. And that's what my storytelling bootcamp covers. So who wants to know more about my storytelling bootcamp? Drop storytelling if you want to learn more. Yes? Okay. Awesome. So let me share here. Oh my God. Okay, there we go. So I want you to imagine for a second, you confused, laid off, you have no idea what you want to do, especially if you're a jack of all trades or someone like me who had so many bad experiences in your career. I mean, gosh, I went through a lot in my career. Illnesses, not getting promoted, sexually harassed, so much. So I wanted to share with you, this is an actual snippet from someone who just finished the storytelling bootcamp, who shared his experience. And he shares that prior to joining the bootcamp, I identified my ideal job and I applied to it in May. Since being in the bootcamp, I've leaned deeper into my product expertise and shifted from the initial ideal job of a senior agile coach to my new ideal job, senior product agile coach. Guess what? Funny how sometimes it's not the resume, it's just knowing what it is that your target should be and adjusting, just like an entrepreneur who's building a product and realizes, That's not a good feature to put in my product. And you make that change and boom, you get more demand. And this is what happened. He got a call from a talent acquisition consultant right after he made that change. Another thing that happens in my boot camp, these are actual screenshots from my community. Someone got their first interview call literally after getting their resume done. Boom, no Canadian experience. Had to deal with recruiters constantly. Guess what? He has an interview call right after he used the new resume. But you know what is amazing about this? It's not just that he got an interview. These two messages were from other people within the community. So happy for him. Super proud of you. You've got so much great experience. I imagine with a few tweaks to what you've been doing, you will have people fighting over you. Can't wait for my turn. This is so awesome. Love how you experience success with a minor tweak. So, do you see the energy? A lot of you dread your job search because you don't have a support system, you don't have friendships, you don't have cheerleaders. Maybe you have friends, but they can't relate, or maybe they're I don't know, they're downers and they'll talk to you about all their negative experiences. But when you're part of a community that's so positive, the energy is just infectious, and this is what happens. The third thing that happens in my basically boot camp is you have accountability and a sounding board. And you see, this person has the opportunity to share with me what they're struggling with as they go through the interview process. Because in my boot camp, it's so fluid that I have people who move faster than others or people who move at a slower pace, and they get 4 weeks of support where they can ask me anything. And with this person, they share that they just got to know that the recruiter call wasn't so bad. She was going through career transition, never had the title. And you see what happens when you have the accountability, the sounding board, the right support system. All of a sudden, you start getting calls despite everyone saying that it's such a bad economy. I mean, I just shared with you 3 stories where in a span of 3 weeks, people got interviews just by being part of the boot camp. But the biggest thing out of this, out of everything that I've shared with you, is not just you getting a job. It's the fact that after you seeing your story for yourself, you're going to land a job where you're going to be appreciated, not fake it with a bunch of keywords, but actually be appreciated for who you are through your authentic self expression, rather than just plopping a bunch of keywords. This is how you avoid toxic environments, because you show your real self. Okay, so that's it for my presentation. My boot camp is starting on Monday, and generally speaking, I cap the number to 15 people. So here's what I'm going to do for all of you, because obviously there's more people on this live than I can let into my boot camp. If you're the kind of person who values being in the right work environment, if you're the kind of person who's willing to put in the work, and I'm not saying you're going to do 100 push-ups, I'm just saying carving, time for yourself. Just like if you were to work out with a personal trainer, if you are able to set aside a couple of hours a week and really focus and work on your communication skills, which are not just going to help you with your job, with getting a job. It's going to help you with your confidence. It's going to help you when you're, at a table with the leadership team. If you're the kind of person who wants that and who loves supporting other people and being part of a community, and you really, really want to get down to becoming a great storyteller, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you know that I'm a storyteller. So you're learning from someone who practices what they preach. I built my business from 0 to 1. I didn't know anyone. I had I wasn't a recruiter, so I had this massive following before. I showed you, I literally had only 500 followers. How did I grow it to 20,000? Through storytelling. How do I get on stages? Through storytelling. So if that's a skill set you want to learn, then I have my calendar open in the next 2 days only to a limited number of people, because I'm one person. I can't talk to 100 people. So if you're very serious about doing this, it's actually a very reasonable price, honestly. It's like the price of groceries probably for a month and a half if you are in the US and Canada. Instead of like, splurging on this expensive vacation, you could buy this for yourself as a gift and have this tool to uplevel your career. So if you're serious, DM me right after this live and I will send you my calendar link. I'm not going to share in the chat because then I'll get 100 people trying to book with me. And if you want my flashcards, you can also put storytelling in the chat and I will make sure that we send you the flashcards. My assistant and I are going to tag team and send you the flashcards. Make it easy for us and also share your email address so that we can add you to the list and just do a push. So yes, put in storytelling if you want the flashcards. And I promise the LinkedIn cheat sheet. And then the other surprise gift, because I don't want to say this because I was a little shy about it, but my birthday is tomorrow and I'm actually turning 40. Oh my God. So I will choose 10 people and review their resume. So I will do a free resume review to celebrate my birthday to the first 10 people who share with me their resume on LinkedIn. So all you have to do is DM me your LinkedIn, or sorry, DM me your resume through LinkedIn DM. And if you're part of the first 10 people, then I will send you a Loom reviewing your resume. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate you. See, this is a sign that you love your job when you're doing a live the night before your birthday. Okay, so full of surprises and gifts. DM me if you want to be part of the bootcamp or if you want to learn more about it. Share with me your resume real fast before someone else beats you. And if you're part of the 10 people, if you're part of the first 10 people, then I will review your resume. And everyone who commented storytelling, you will also get the flashcards. Okay, everyone. I hope you all learned. And I hope that if you really need this and you're stuck and you're unhappy, you can get the help you need. So I would encourage you to take action. And there are people who were or are clients who are on this live who will tell you that they benefit so much. Their confidence has skyrocketed learning these storytelling techniques. Okay, wonderful, everyone. Hope you all have a wonderful night. And don't forget to DM me because I will be closing the doors on the storytelling bootcamp. I actually have 2 people who already, enrolled. That's how excited people are. And if you want to jump on the resume review, be part of the 10 to DM me your resume. And hope you all have a wonderful night. Thank you so much. Bye.